far as this goes, a new week, Democrats think they have the moral high ground, and so do Republicans. This standoff could last some time.
It could, but we've just seen movement in the last couple hours with Donald Trump saying, you know, I'm talking to Democrats about health care now.
Was he speaking out of school?
Well, he's the president, so he can't be speaking out of school. And that is a signal that, look, Democrats said this shutdown is going to be about health care. Donald Trump just said this shutdown is about health care. Mike Johnson, the speaker, just said there's nothing to negotiate about. But meanwhile, John Thune said, you know, we're talking about health care. So now we're talking about health care, which is what Democrats said they wanted this to be about. That was their message. That was their negotiating position. That was the red line. I feel like if you're a Democrat right now, if you're Schumer right now, you feel like, OK, this is going pretty well after 5 or 6 days.
They call this the Schumer shutdown. Is that fair and accurate?
Well, I think if you're the leader of the Senate, you know, that's the price that you pay. You know, you take the blows, you become the face of that. And there are benefits to being leader and there's drawbacks. I think for him, it's fine.
I want to ask you about motivations here specifically with Chuck Schumer, because we hear every day that this goes back to March. The seeds for this shutdown were planted the last time he caved, as they say, and upset a lot of progressives. Then I hear that he's going to be primaried by AOC and that he's running from both of these stories and afraid to make the mistake again. Is he worried about being primaried? What is driving him, if nothing more than that?
Right. So let's start with that and then move back to March.
Okay.
So I have no idea if he's going to run in 2028 or not. I have no inside knowledge. I have no outside knowledge on that. If he does run, I don't think he's beatable in a primary. I mean, yeah, if it was a primary just in New York City, I think AOC would have a chance. There's Long Island, there's Westchester, there's Albany, there's Syracuse. I mean, Schumer has been visiting every single county, all 62, in New York State every single year since 1998. Like, he shows up. So I don't think there's a realistic chance that he could be beaten in a primary. Let's go back to March. Schumer's execution of keeping the government open did not work well. Like, he did not communicate to his colleagues. He paid a price for it. The party got very upset.
Yeah.
The mistake on that happened even before, because House Democrats didn't believe Republicans had the votes to get it even out of the House. And everyone was shocked when they did. So I think part of this is, in March, they thought there was going to be bipartisan negotiations. There were not. So this has been brewing. We've been seeing September 30th as the date where the two armies would clash for the last 6 months, and they have.
Let's talk off-ramps, because I spoke today with Nicole Malliotakis, of course, his colleague from New York, who he has nothing in common with politically, although said that she, too, would be open to talking about extending Obamacare subsidies once the government reopened. But she talked about a couple of important dates, including the 10th, when federal workers would miss their first paycheck, and then a few days later would be the military. Let's listen to what she said.
Military will not be paid on the 15th. We're seeing the Women in Infant and Children's program will run out of money. That's a nutritional program that is very important to many of our constituents. You're going to see probably delays at the airport as a result of TSA agents who are not getting paid, being frustrated. And you'll probably see a lot of other things unfolding, and the economic impact, of course. The GDP will be affected. Consumer spending will be affected. This is costing the taxpayers $400 million a day.
We know that shutdowns cost money, Jim Kessler, but how about the pay cycle, the 10th and the 15th? Could that help to dislodge enough Democrats to pass one of these CRs?
Well, I still believe that health care is going to be the crux of this, and Obamacare is going to be the crux. Look, when you have a shutdown, each side tries to inflict as much pain as possible on the other side.
Yes.
Democrats have only one tool. That's communications and messaging. Republicans, Donald Trump, have tons of tools. They can do rescissions, they can do executive orders, they can do mass firings, and of course, like whether somebody gets paid or doesn't get paid, because sometimes you can work that through with excess money that you have.
Sure.
So Republicans are going to try and exert as much pain to get Democrats to the table more quickly. I also think health care bills showing up in November, that's when people start to see what their premiums are going to cost next year. That's going to be pressure on Republicans.
Another motivator. How about mass layoffs? How about any layoffs? If Russ Vought starts to pull the trigger, you saw the Grim Reaper video?
Right.
Does that poison the well and prolong the shutdown?
Well, possibly. Now, the other thing that you try and do is like win the battle of reasonableness and seriousness. So Democrats put an offer on the table. It's health care. I think that passes the reasonableness test, and they say they want to negotiate. I think Republicans early made a misstep when they did sombreros and mustaches on Democratic leaders. That is not message discipline. That doesn't look like seriousness. Look, I think ultimately there's going to be pain. There's going to be layoffs. You just heard Donald Trump talk about health care. You heard John Thune talking about health care. The answer is health care. There's going to have to be some solution on health care and on these Obamacare subsidies. And then, look, in the end, there's going to be a deal. I guarantee you Republicans on the far right are going to hate it, and Democrats on the far left are going to hate it. There's going to be pain when there's a deal, too.
Which means that they did their job, right? If that, in fact, is the case here and we have a deal, is Chuck Schumer's star rising inside the party? Because I keep hearing a lot about generational turnover by Democrats.
Yeah, look, I think it's a reset for him. But look, ultimately, the report card is going to be the midterms. Democrats feel they're doing pretty well, certainly in the House in the midterms, and I think Schumer's got some confidence in the Senate. But yes, I think the Army's coming out winning on health care would be a huge victory for Schumer.